Georgia at Auburn. CD and I, as we previewed this game, we said this is our easiest play. It's Georgia and Georgia to cover. We said that. We did not account for the Carson Beck first SEC road start. We did not account for the crazy rivalry. And Georgia does not. I should have taken Auburn first half spread. I really should have, because Georgia just does not get off to good starts.
Did anybody account for Peyton Thorne and those legs, man? He was booking on one of those plays. I didn't think he had it in him. I was like, he turned the corner, and I was like, oh, it's going to be a nice 15-yard gain. And then, boom, he would just long stride in. I thought that was Robbie Ashford for a second. I was like, who is this, man?
Yeah, so, but again, 88 yards passing for the Auburn offense. How they scored 20 points, I'll just never know. Can't wait for the Carson Beck dislikers to come at me as a guy who's been defending Carson Beck this entire season, preseason. Can't wait for Carson Beck. Oh, he had the interception. Oh, what are we talking about here? In the biggest moment on the road, when he needed to get it done, he got it done. Now, he also had Brock Bowers. He did have Brock Bowers.
With the game, him down 7, right? With 5 minutes to go in the third, they had 3 more drives that mattered. They went touchdown, field goal, touchdown.
Boom, boom, boom. When it matters, Carson Beck is there. Now, if you want to make the argument that, I don't know what's going on in these first quarters. Why Carson Beck can't figure it out early in these games. I don't know what it is. I don't know. All I know is that he's figuring it out as the game goes on, and he's not losing confidence. He's still slinging it. You still see the arm talent. They still have talent in this Georgia team. I will say the defense, though, it was good. It was good, but
it got put in bad situations. I think. I mean, you look at Auburn's scoring drives. Were any of their touchdown drives more than 50 yards? No, they weren't. It was short fields that got. And that's a credit to Auburn's defense, obviously. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Georgia's defense going forward.
Okay, yeah, and they'll get healthier too. They'll get healthier. This team's currently 15.5-point favorites at home against Kentucky, which I'm not afraid to take Georgia. We might be previewing that game. I'll still have to do more research, but I'm not afraid to take Georgia in the points. They're 0-5 against the spread this year, by the way, for anyone who's not been following along with this Georgia team. Not exactly meeting expectations, but they're 5-0. Undefeated in the SEC. And they play in the SEC East, which, by the way, is 3 undefeated teams. People who didn't know that. So, which is pretty wild to me. Auburn, I still think this is a valiant effort, of course, but I think the rivalry and the home factor, weird stuff happens in Jordan-Hare. Weird stuff happens in Jordan-Hare.
That's what I was saying. I was asking a friend who was at the game, and I was like, what is it about Jordan-Hare? Because it's not the biggest, right? Auburn certainly isn't the best SEC team, year to year. Right? What is it about Jordan-Hare that's just so hard to play in? That stuff happens. And they were like, they don't know. They just don't know. But something happens. And, sometimes we account for it and sometimes we don't. And to be honest, more times than not, it plays a huge factor when good teams come in there. There's something about it, especially when you jump on them early, right? The one thing Georgia could not do was go down early, and they went down 10-0. And then Jordan-Hare is a bitch to deal with, a bitch. So, and Carson Beck learned that the hard way. But credit to him, like you said, responded. The whole team responded. It's not the worst thing in the world for Georgia to have some adversity on the road. It's not. I don't think at all, especially sometimes in a win, right? Especially if you're Kirby Smart. Obviously, you would love for your team to play fantastic every week and win by 40, right? And have your third strings in by halftime. But that's not the reality of the SEC. He knows that. And sometimes he knows that the way to get a message through to your team that wasn't being received beforehand is through a tough win, right? Where you have to really grind it out. And then they're like, okay, maybe this week I'm going to do something different in practice. Maybe we have to continue to look at the small things because it really does matter. And we just because we're Georgia doesn't mean we can go out there and roll everybody on our schedule.
Absolutely. I say for Auburn moving forward, I think a lot of other SEC coaches are kind of looking at these performances by Auburn and kind of just telling the team, "Hey, let's not turn the ball over and let's walk out of here with a win."
Oh,
I
come
think some
on,
coach
come on.
I think some coaching staffs are they might be looking at this team saying they're not there yet. And year one, Hugh Freeze, yeah, sure, they weren't going to be, right? They weren't going to be there, right? We maybe expected them to be a little bit better, but they weren't going to be there, right? Hey, I said this last week, but good luck, Auburn. Good luck with the rest of your SEC schedule.
I'm gonna take the other path here for our Auburn fans that are still hopeful, in Hugh Freeze to turn around this year. I think you saw some things in this game that you liked, right? Obviously, your defense is good enough to keep you in every game. Okay, hear me out.
All
And
right, I'm hearing.
looking at your schedule, right? It lines up about as good as it can get in terms of maximizing your wins, right? You can cut your losses with at LSU, fine, but you host Ole Miss, right? You host Mississippi State, you go to Vanderbilt, right? And you go to a very struggling Arkansas team right now. Obviously, in New Mexico State at home should be win. And then you host Alabama, which who knows what can happen in the Iron Bowl. Jordan Hare. I'm not giving up on this team. I'm not giving up on my over pick for Auburn to win over 6.5 games because they just got to win a couple games in the SEC West moving forward in a year where the SEC West, other than honestly Bama and A&M right now, they already played A&M, they already played Georgia on their schedule. Nobody else really scares you, and everybody else has a ton of holes that have been exploited already, and it was just September, right? Well, real quick, I want to ask you a question about Georgia's next game in Kentucky. What's the difference between Kentucky right now and Auburn? I really don't see a ton of difference looking
I
at teams that have
Hey,
really good relying on the running game, right? You got transfer quarterbacks that's not living up to the bill. And if this game was played in Sanford Stadium, it's a much different football game. We all know that. And next week is played in Sanford Stadium for Kentucky to go to Georgia. And obviously, Kentucky's 5-0 and whatever else, but like you said, it might be very tempting to get in early on that game for next week.
it's very tempting. I see your point.